A ripple of gasps swept through Sandringham's candlelit drawing room when a tiny voice broke the Christmas hush. "Daddy, I miss you." 10-year-old cheeks flushed pink from the fire. Charlotte of Wales locked her father's eyes and delivered a truth no courtier dared speak. Even future kings forget bedtime now and then. It lasted only seconds, yet the moment flew from palace walls to every breakfast table in Britain, morphing into headlines and hashtags. Why did it matter? Because it shattered a centuries-old illusion that royal children accept duty in silence, and it signaled that the girl fourth in line to the throne might someday redraw its boundaries. She did not come into the world quietly. On the 2nd of May 2015, as photographers jostled outside St. Mary's Hospital, Catherine stepped onto the steps in butter-yellow silk, cradling a bundle the press had already nicknamed Baby Princess. Inside that blanket lay a trinity of names: Charlotte for her grandfather Charles, Elizabeth for a reigning monarch, Diana for a legend who never saw her granddaughter's smile. In one stroke, her parents anchored her to tradition and rebellion alike, hinting she might carry both crowns at once. Normal life began on the windswept grounds of Anmer Hall, the Norfolk refuge where pheasants outnumber photographers. William traded gilded corridors for muddy boots, determined his eldest daughter would learn dragonflies before deadlines. Family snapshots released each spring captured her sprinting through bluebells, toppling into George's arms, and eyeing infant Louis with the proprietary gaze only middle children understand. Yet every lens also whispered the other truth. One day the giggles would echo inside Westminster Abbey. That inevitability glimmered sooner than anyone expected. During the family's first Christmas at Sandringham, candle wax still warm on holly-sprigged sconces, Charlotte's declaration of longing stopped conversation mid-carol. No reporters stood by, but royal households leak like antique roofs. Within weeks, tabloids framed the story as a pint-sized rebuke of monarchy's workaholic heir. The palace said nothing. Silence can be strategic. But courtiers quietly adjusted William's calendar. When a child's honesty bends a prince's schedule, the public notices. Outside those walls, Charlotte's stage expanded in deliberate, gleaming steps. Each appearance shorter than the last headline. Each headline louder than the last appearance. Her christening procession beneath St. Mary Magdalene's Tudor beams looked timeless, but observers clocked a toddler already waving with conscious precision. By age 3, she was bridesmaid twice, first scattering petals for Uncle Harry, later guiding younger attendants at Princess Eugenie's Windsor wedding. Cameras caught her whispering reminders, "This way, Louis," with the calm authority of a duchess in miniature. Crucially, the law had begun to keep pace. 2 years before her birth, the 2013 Perth Agreement scrapped male-first succession, ensuring that when Louis arrived in 2018, Charlotte did not slide down the line. For the first time in British history, a royal daughter held her spot on merit of birth order alone, a legal footnote to courtiers, a seismic shift to little girls watching across the Commonwealth. The pandemic-era slowdown offered a final pocket of childhood innocence. Bicycle races along Kensington's cobblestones, lockdown Zoom calls where she quizzed Sir David Attenborough about spiders, homemade rainbows taped to palace windows. But as restrictions eased, so did the royal veil. January 2024 brought her final walk through Thomas's Battersea Gates. September ushered George, Charlotte, and Louis into Lambrook School's wooded Berkshire campus, hand in hand with parents determined to grant anonymity within trimmed hedgerows. Even there, classmates whispered about the princess who might one day appear on their money. May 2nd, 2025, proved Charlotte's largest spotlight yet. At dawn, Kensington Palace released a portrait snapped by Catherine. The birthday girl in a camouflage jacket, ponytail whipped by spring wind, grinning like a scout about to earn her first badge. Instagram likes rocketed past 1 million before breakfast, Style blogs dissected the 45-pound cargo trousers within minutes. Town and Country Harper's Bazaar retail analysts predicted a sellout by lunch, another data point in the so-called Charlotte effect, that Reader's Digest now values at £3.6 billion over her lifetime. 3 days later, VE Day's 80th anniversary, the Wales children skipped class for a frontline seat at Horse Guards Parade. Charlotte, navy coat crisp against drizzle, leaned toward her mother as RAF Typhoons thundered overhead, then gently nudged Lewis's elbow when his flag-waving grew wild. Commentators applauded her poise. Social media replayed the sibling microdrama on loop. MarieClairePeople.com. Yet beneath the headlines hums a real girl who earns grass stains like trophies. Friends whisper she swims laps fast enough to challenge George, volleys a tennis ball until William calls time, and begs for extra saddle hours at Windsor's Royal Mews. Weekend craft tables at Adelaide Cottage overflow with glitter and glue, proof that not every royal signature ends in ink. Private staff describe her as arithmetically sharp, theatrically fearless, the kind who'd rather narrate bedtime stories than hear them. Such confidence fuels speculation about her future portfolio. Will she champion early years education beside her mother? Head equestrian patronages that echo Princess Anne? Or seize the parity her succession status promises by pushing gender-focused diplomacy? Courtiers won't predict aloud, but insiders note the subtle grooming. Short Q&A moments with veterans, curated charity visits where she asks donors, not aides, about results. Charlotte's influence already tests royal protocol. When she corrected Lewis's balcony salute at Trooping the Color 2023, public memes bloomed overnight, dubbing her Chief of Mini Protocol. The palace quietly embraced the moniker, printing it on an internal training slide about child engagement. Behind those walls, staff know every tilt of her chin sends a message about a monarchy trying to look both ancient and awake. But the girl who stunned Sandringham has more to say. Friends of the family recall a recent Sunday roast where, amid talk of conservation, Charlotte reportedly asked William, "If I become patron of the Earthshot Prize one day, can it still exist for kids who aren't royal?" A simple query, yet packed with the audacity to envision power beyond lineage. William laughed, promising the prize would belong to everyone with ideas, though onlookers swear his eyes shimmered with the weight of legacy shifting again. While duty looms, so does adolescence, with its screen time debates and first crush giggles. Catherine guards the boundary fiercely. No personal social media accounts, limited online classes, strict rota of chores. In private, the princess whines about dishwasher duty like any 10-year-old, rolling her eyes when George skips his turn. These glimpses remind courtiers, and us, that heritage does not vaccinate against sibling squabbles or math homework. Still, history's undertow is relentless. The next decade will thrust Charlotte into confirmations, tiara fittings, perhaps a seat beside the sovereign during Commonwealth Day. The world will parse every speech inflection, every outfit echoing Diana's silhouettes, or Elizabeth's brooches. Yet the spark defining her story is not fashion. It is candor. From that Christmas plea to the unscripted balcony nudges, Charlotte speaks truths monarchy cannot afford to ignore. Parents matter more than protocol. Gender should never dictate destiny. And empathy, delivered bravely, can reorder calendars and constitutions alike. So where does this leave Britain's future? Imagine the coronation of King William V, gold leaf catching sunrise through Westminster stained glass. Behind him stands a grown Princess Charlotte, camouflage jacket traded for ermine, but eyes still searching for unvarnished moments. Perhaps she will whisper another heartfelt reminder, not of missed bedtimes, but of the people outside these walls whose hopes drift on a young woman's courage. And if she dares speak it aloud, the echo might again shake the palace. Only this time the monarchy will be ready to listen. what do you think Charlotte's most daring moment will be? Will she shatter yet another tradition, or wield history like an heirloom sword, cutting space for voices long unheard? Tell us below, smash the like button, and buckle up for the next royal chapter, because the girl who changed everything has only just begun. Princess Charlotte stuns the entire country with this royal bombshell message about Prince William. Nobody expected a 10-year-old to hijack Britain's most solemn military tribute, but the instant Princess Charlotte leaned toward her little brother and let a secret slip. Every camera on the mall might as well have turned into a megaphone. Viewers froze their screens, lip readers pounced, and within hours the phrase "Charlotte's balcony bombshell" was splashed across every feed. May 5, 2025 should have belonged to the veterans. Thundering drums marched 1,300 uniformed troops past Buckingham Palace, while red, white, and blue smoke painted the sky. King Charles saluted. Prince William and Princess Kate flanked the monarch. Children lined up like miniature officers. Charlotte, as poised as any adult, birthday sash fresh in memory, stood at attention. Yet her eyes flicked between Louis and the crowd, as though she sensed a bigger story waiting to pounce. But the bigger story arrived in a whisper. Professional lip reader Nicola Hickling replayed the footage frame by frame. According to one interpretation, Charlotte nodded toward her father's military coat and said, "You'll be the best king ever. Promise." Another analyst insisted the final words were, "Sooner than you think." Either way, the message sounded bolder than a child's compliment, and tabloids wasted zero time leveling it up to a royal bombshell. And just like that, Britain's focus swung from cannon salutes to a 10-year-old's lip movements. By sundown, YouTube autoplays were a carousel of screaming thumbnails. Charlotte stuns the country. Princess exposes palace secret. Millions clicked. Reaction videos spawned reaction to reaction videos. On TikTok, slow-mo mouth-reading duels turned into overnight trends. What Charlotte actually said mattered less than how many ways the internet could remix it. But the frenzy masked a second, far more adult storyline simmering beneath the palace facade. 3 days earlier, Kensington Palace dropped an iPhone-snapped birthday portrait. Charlotte in a camo jacket, ponytail whipping in Lakeland wind. The casual shot shattered stiff royal photo tradition and reminded Britain she's not just the cute middle child. She's the first Windsor girl whose spot in the line of succession can't be bumped by a younger brother. Commentators gush over her warrior princess grit, her habit of nudging Prince George to bow at funerals and shushing Louis during national anthems. In other words, this 10-year-old already commands attention. The balcony whisper merely proved it. Weeks before VE Day, late-night host Stephen Colbert revived whispers that William once shared more than friendship with Marchioness Rose Hanbury. The palace issued its usual no comment. Hanbury's lawyers fired legal letters, and then, conveniently, Charlotte's micro moment muscled those headlines off the front page. Some royal watchers wonder, was the internet's fixation accidental, or did savvy courtiers funnel attention toward an innocuous child's quip to drown out adult controversy? Either way, the palace wasn't about to waste a viral gift. Aides have long feared Charlotte might replay Prince Harry's outsider angst, neither heir nor entirely free. According to insiders, William and Kate are mapping out guardrails, tighter press pools, curated social media drops, and carefully chosen public gigs that highlight Charlotte's strengths without trapping her in constant comparison. The plan? Let her shine on her own terms, and crucially, let moments like the balcony whisper remind Britain she's already a linchpin, not a spare. Still, one question lingers. If Charlotte truly murmured that her father would be king sooner than you think, did she overhear private conversations about King Charles's health? About Kate's recent cancer battle? Or was it simply a child wrapped in ceremony, parroting grown-up talk she barely understood? For monarchy watchers, the ambiguity is delicious. For the palace, it's a reminder that every royal child, especially one this confident, carries a microphone even when no one hears the words. Royal historians point to Princess Anne's tireless work ethic and Princess Diana's emotional intelligence. Fans see both traits budding in Charlotte. Combine that with Gen Alpha social media savvy, and you get the firm's most potent goodwill weapon in decades. If Charlotte can captivate a nation with a single muted sentence, imagine what happens when she speaks out loud at 18? So, was that balcony whisper a heartfelt pep talk? A precocious prediction? Or a lightning rod that pulled Britain's gaze away from darker palace storms? Whatever the truth, one thing is clear. The tiniest royal just reminded the world that the future of the crown might hinge on voices too young to vote yet loud enough to shake a parade ground. Keep your eyes on Princess Charlotte, because the next time she drops a bombshell, we might actually hear it. May 2nd, 2015. Outside St. Mary's Hospital, photographers jostled like waves against a seawall, waiting for history to step through the doors. When it did, it was wrapped in a white blanket barely larger than a tea towel. William's proud smile and Catherine's gentle wave framed a baby who already carried 3 centuries of expectation in her name. Charlotte, Elizabeth, Diana. Each syllable was a tribute. Charlotte linked her to King George III's queen, Queen Charlotte, a monarch remembered for fierce intelligence and philanthropy. Elizabeth needed no introduction, an anchor to the longest reigning queen the country had ever known. Diana was both legacy and lighthouse, illuminating a path of compassion her late grandmother carved through the stiff corridors of royalty. Long before she could walk, Charlotte was fourth in line to the throne, forever entwined with Britain's future. Yet, destiny left room for childhood. At least, as much childhood as a princess can claim. Rather than plunge immediately into the London spotlight, William and Catherine spirited their growing family to Anmer Hall, a Georgian brick refuge tucked into the Norfolk countryside. There, mornings smelled of wet grass instead of car exhaust. Village neighbors became casual acquaintances rather than headline fodder, and the children chased butterflies instead of camera lenses. Public glimpses arrived only in carefully timed photos, Charlotte clutching George's hand on the front steps, or laughing in Catherine's arms beside a garden swing. They were reminders that beneath coronets beat very ordinary young hearts, but ordinary has a habit of colliding with destiny. After a handful of peaceful years, duty called the Cambridges back to Kensington Palace, and eventually to Windsor's Adelaide Cottage, dragging brighter flashbulbs and sharper scrutiny in their wake. Still, the seed planted in Norfolk remained. A conviction that normalcy, when fiercely protected, can bloom even inside gilded gates. The first flakes of December drifted over Sandringham's yawning lawns when Charlotte uttered the sentence heard round the monarchy. Carols floated through oak-paneled halls. Fragrant evergreens lined corridors heavy with tradition. William, newly returned from a string of public engagements, knelt to adjust a bauble on the sprawling tree, unaware his daughter was gathering the courage history would later replay. She stepped forward, tugged his sleeve, and spoke her truth. "I know you're busy, but I want you here." No diplomatic cushioning, no sugar-coated small talk, just a child's crystalline plea for presence. The stillness that followed felt cathedral-like. Even seasoned courtiers blinked, realizing a 7-year-old had articulated in seconds what advisors had tiptoed around for years. The crown's weight can land heaviest on its smallest shoulders. That intimate exchange was never meant for microphones, yet stories this potent refused to stay caged. A staff member whispered it to a friend. A friend of a friend passed it on. By the time tabloids caught scent, the anecdote had morphed into legend, fueling commentaries about parenting, duty, and the fragile line between public service and private love. Charlotte, meanwhile, returned to chasing her brothers through tinsel-strewn corridors, Her message delivered, her heart a little lighter. But that was only the spark. In the months that followed, Charlotte's world expanded at dizzying speed. The family's move nearer Windsor placed her squarely in Britain's heartbeat. Paparazzi lenses found her ponytail at school drop-offs. Fans tracked her height by the length of her dress hems on public balconies. Yet, observers noticed something equally striking. She coped with the noise better than many adults. Part of that composure sprang from Wilcox Nursery and later Lambrook School, where classrooms emphasized empathy as much as arithmetic. Teachers described a girl who volunteered to guide shy classmates and instinctively included everyone in playground games. Like her mother, Charlotte disarmed with kindness. Like her father, she deployed humor as armor. At home, she discovered passions that tethered her to earthier realities. Tennis on sun-dappled courts, wild splashes in the family pool, and horseback rides across Windsor's great park, with Catherine trotting beside her. Those moments taught her that greatness without grounding can drift into emptiness, a lesson no throne room can provide. Yet even the most steadfast routines couldn't fully shield her from the tidal pull of ceremony. June 2022's Platinum Jubilee soared with aerial jets and roaring crowds, but one subtle scene stole millions of hearts. Charlotte gently placing her hand over Prince Louis's restless fingers, coaxing him to stillness on the Buckingham Palace balcony. No scolding, just a sisterly signal that the world was watching, and he would be fine. A few months later, at the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, the same girl, now dressed in respectful black, a horseshoe brooch glinting against her coat, bowed her head with gravity that silenced skeptics. Commentators on morning shows marveled, "She's 7 going on 17. Audiences sensed the baton of public expectation sliding ever so slightly into her petite grasp. Wedding aisles offered lighter moments. As bridesmaid for both Prince Harry and Meghan, and later Princess Eugenie, Charlotte balanced petals in one hand and protocol in the other, occasionally flashing George a look that said, "Eyes forward, big brother, this is our cue." Each wave, each whispered joke, showcased a child mastering theater without losing authenticity. But beyond ceremony, a deeper shift was underway, one written into law but felt in public imagination. In classrooms, Charlotte tackled fractions. At home, she tackled her brothers during backyard football. Each setting revealed a leadership gene blossoming early. When a group project stalled, classmates said she redirected focus with an assertive, "Come on, team, let's finish strong." At official events, lip readers caught her reminding George of posture, Louis of patience, and sometimes even William of schedule. Her hobbies further underscored this multidimensional identity. Tennis and swimming, sharpening agility and self-discipline. Horseback riding, embracing centuries of royal equestrian heritage. Arts and crafts, turning breakfast tables into kaleidoscopes of paint and glitter. Outlets where imagination outranked etiquette. These pursuits didn't merely fill afternoons, they signaled a princess carving space to grow as Charlotte first, royal second. And thanks to a historic change, her place in Britain's future was suddenly less fragile. Before 2013, gender could bump a princess down the ladder the moment a younger brother arrived. The Perth Agreement flipped that script. Succession would honor birth order, full stop. So when Prince Louis debuted in 2018, he slid neatly behind Charlotte, preserving her fourth spot in history's queue. For the monarchy, it was paperwork. For Charlotte, it was liberation. She could dream of adulthood without scanning over her shoulder for legal technicalities. Symbolically, it crowned a new era, one where a royal daughter's destiny remained her own, not a placeholder to be shuffled aside for a son. And the outside world noticed. Google searches for Charlotte's succession rules spiked. Editorials labeled her the face of modern monarchy. Yet the most tangible proof of influence appeared not in headlines, but on clothing racks. Within hours of a new photograph, the cardigan on Charlotte's shoulders or the polka-dot dress swirling at her knees vanished from store shelves. Analysts at Reader's Digest ran the numbers. Across a lifetime, her brand power could inject $4.6 billion into the British economy. At 10 years old, she was silently steering markets with nothing more than a smile. Style blogs dubbed her Royal Highness of Trendsetting. Toy makers released Charlotte dolls. Yet the princess remained blissfully unaware, splattering acrylic paint across homemade birthday cards, while economists debated her fiscal halo. In September 2022, her title shifted to Princess Charlotte of Wales, echoing William's new role. Another subtle nudge toward the throne, another spotlight a little brighter. But for all the metrics and monikers, the core truth remained the same one she voiced that fateful Christmas. Hearts beat louder than protocols. From the hush of a nursery in 2015 to the thunder of jet flyovers in 2025, Princess Charlotte has grown from headline baby to headline maker. She's the girl who reminded a future king to pause, the sister who steadies younger royals in whirlwinds of ceremony, the child whose hobbies echo through billion-dollar markets without her even trying. And if a single Christmas confession could jolt the monarchy into self-reflection, imagine the tsunamis her teenage candor might unleash. Will she spearhead mental health advocacy like her mother, champion environmental causes beside her father, or blaze an uncharted trail entirely her own? One thing is certain: the world will keep watching, not out of obligation but anticipation. Because Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, the princess who dared to speak from the heart, isn't waiting for a crown to shape history. She's already doing it, one fearless sentence at a time. Stay curious, because the next chapter in her remarkable story could drop at any moment. And if her past is any clue, it will be worth every second you spend watching.